Hey everyone, I'm Erin and welcome to the Cardboard Republic. We have a to be played video this week. We're going to go over the games that we said we would play last month and tell you how well we did. And then we're going to look at some new games that we are going to get to the table in May. I forgot what month it was for a second, but it's May. Okay, let's get started with what we played last month. First is Apotheca. Apotheca was our game of the month for April, and we definitely played this. We actually played it a few different times with a few different people, and everyone really dug it. It's a relatively simple game. You have a grid, you're laying out these potion tiles face down, and your goal is to match 3. So every turn you can flip some over, you can peek at them, you can lay some more down. There's a lot of mind games going on, there's a lot of hidden information, and it moves pretty quickly. The whole game lasts maybe 20-25 minutes, but it's a lot of fun, especially with 2 or 3 players. Next up is Above and Below. This was another really pretty game. It has 2 separate parts to it. So the first part is the above part. Your villagers are building a new village. You buy buildings, you buy people, you collect resources, all of the standard worker placement sort of things. The second part of the game is a choose your own adventure style narrative exploration thing where your workers are going through the cavern that they've discovered below the city and exploring, hoping to get something good out of it. Those are really fun, and I wasn't sure initially about how those 2 mechanics would sync up, how they would really complement each other, but they do really work well together because when you're exploring, you feel like you're really trying to get something to help your town. And when you're building your town, you really feel like you're trying to get something to build this place so you can go explore the caverns. So they really mesh well together. When I had initially tried Above and Below at Gen Con last year, I wasn't so sure because something about the demoing experience, it just didn't fit with me. But when I was able to try it at home, you know, with my friends in a relatively quiet and peaceful environment, it worked a lot better for me and I really liked it. Next up is Nippon. This was a beast to punch out and to explain to people. It took us a while to get it started, but we did get it to the table. And it's a relatively dry economic game. I mean, it's a lot of fun, but you have to be really invested in it as a Euro game. We played it with 4 people and it did take a while to get through, but everyone involved was really a fan of Euro games, so we liked it, but probably not for everyone. Next up is Odin's Ravens. This is another game that we totally played. So in Odin's Ravens, you are playing as the Ravens, you're racing across the landscape, and in order to act this out, you have landscape cards spread across the table. And each time it's your turn, you can play as many cards from your hand as you have to match the cards in front of you on the table. So, you know, if you have 3 field cards in your hand and there are 3 fields ahead of you, then go for it. But if you only have mountains in your hand and there are 3 fields in front of you, you're kind of out of luck. So it is a very luck-based game, but there are these Loki cards that let you mitigate that luck a little bit. For Ryan and I, we really liked it, and it's not often that we both agree that we like a 2-player game. Normally, I either love it and he hates it, or he loves it and I hate it. So it was kind of fun to find one that we both enjoyed. So jumping ahead a little bit, we have Castle Dice, More Castles. We did have a chance to play this. It's obviously an expansion to Castle Dice. It was fun. I would say it adds a little bit more strategy to the base game once you're familiar with it. Castle Dice More Castles adds these extra decks and they're all themed. So there's one that focuses on getting more animals, there's one that focuses on building up your defenses, and so on and so forth. So it doesn't drastically change the base game, but it does add a little bit of depth. Also, it was really cool to just get something else to put in the gigantic Castle Dice box. That box is huge. It's totally out of proportion with the base Castle Dice game. So at least now we put the expansion dice, or we put the expansion decks in there, and it feels slightly more justified to keep it on our shelf. So, finally, and I saved this one for last, even though technically it should have come first, because we finished Pandemic Legacy after like months. It was like 4 years. I don't even know anymore. And it was a lot of fun. I loved Pandemic Legacy. So yes, technically we played it. That's another check. You'll notice we have all checks this time, but we'll talk about that in a second. So Pandemic Legacy, I can't give you any like real details, but it was a lot of fun. Everyone was very, very invested in it and invested in the characters they had built right until the very end. We were all totally on board for all the twists and turns in the story, and everyone had fun and everyone always wanted to play it whenever it was game night. We played it with the same core group of 4 players from beginning to end, and I would say that made the experience 10 times better. So if you haven't started it yet, I would definitely advise you to keep the same group if you can going forward. That is Pandemic Legacy, and we totally owned it. You'll notice that that is 6 out of 6 games played for April, and I'm very excited. That's the first time we've actually managed to play all of our to-be-played games from the previous month. And I'm hoping that we can carry that forward into May, but honestly, I don't even care because that's a check mark. We just achieved something great here. So looking forward to May, here are the games that we're going to be trying to play. And we have a convention coming up in May. We have Granite Game Summit, which will be probably when this video drops, it'll be only a couple days in the future. I'm really excited for that and hoping that maybe we can get a few of these games to the table then and get them out of the way. First up, we have World's Fair 1893. This is our May game of the month, and we just talked about it in our haul video too, so this might be a little familiar to you. It's a little bit tricky to describe verbally, but essentially you go around and each turn you place some cubes in certain spots on the board. That gives you kind of control over that area. It also gives you access to the things that are assigned to that area. So you can collect midway tickets, which are essentially VP. You can collect exhibitions, which at the end of the game, you get points for having the most of each type. It's kind of Euro-ish, but it's also a little bit lighter than a lot of traditional Euro games. We had a chance to play this a while ago, and it was a lot of fun. Obviously, that's why we made it our game of the month. And we are really looking forward to trying it again, totally finished, totally all set with our friends. Next up, we have Onitama. This is one that Ryan really wants to try. It's admittedly probably not my style of game because it's a 2-player tactical game. It looks a little bit like chess in that you're moving your pieces around the board and trying to, battle your opponent's pieces. The difference is that the way pieces move is assigned by these action cards that rotate around. So a given action card might be assigned to a certain piece, and that will describe the different ways that that piece can move around the board for a given turn. It's very tactical. I've heard that it's very fun from people who are into that style of game, so if that sounds fun to you, then totally go check it out. It's very cute, but it's probably not for me. I'm gonna let him do this one. Next up, we have Grand Austria Hotel. This is a medium weight Euro. In this game, you are trying to build your little cafe into a grand hotel. To do that, you have to attract guests. Each of the guests has different preferences, and if you manage to please them, you can keep expanding, keep growing. There's an interesting dice selection mechanic as opposed to dice allocation, which I love dice allocation. So I'm interested in trying the reverse of that. All in all, I haven't played it yet, so I'm not sure, but I am hopeful about this one because it seems like something I would really like, and I will report back with results. Next up, we have Kodama the Tree Spirits. This one I'm excited to try because unlike the previous ones we just talked about, it's a relatively light game. I think it'll be a good contrast to those Euro games that we're going to be playing for the rest of the month. In Kodama, you are using the cards from your hand to build trees by laying these cards down on the table. But unlike a lot of card games where you place the cards one next to the other in rows and columns, in Kodama, you're placing the cards very organically so that the branching artwork on one card lines up with the branching artwork on the other card to effectively build this beautiful tree out from your center. I'm excited to try this one with as many players as we can because I want to see how everyone's trees look different at the end of the game, even though we all start with essentially the same components. So I'm definitely going to be taking pictures of this one. So follow us on Twitter at Cardboard News and you will see them. For this next section, we usually pick a game that we've played before and that we want to try again. It's a good way of balancing out all of the new stuff that we're going to be bringing to our table with something that we already know the rules to. For this month, for May, it's going to be Mice and Mystics. Mice and Mystics is a storytelling or narrative style game. You play as mice, going through and having battles with different things in kitchens and courtyards, and it's just, honestly, more than anything, it's just very cute. It can be a little dark, but it is still a very fun game to play with your friends. It's cooperative too, which will be a nice balance to all of the competitive Euro stuff we have going on. Mice and Mystics is a game we actually started a while ago, and we had intended for it to be a campaign-style game that we played with our friends over and over again, just like Pandemic Legacy. But for some reason, we only ended up playing the first 1 or 2 sessions of it, or the first 1 or 2 games, and then it sort of just fell off our radar. I'm excited to bring it back in May and see how far we can get. Okay, finally, we have our card pull game. So for this one, I shuffle these cards, usually pretty poorly, sometimes off camera because I'm terrible at it, and then I draw one randomly. Whatever card I draw is a game that we are going to play and review during the month of May. So give me a sec. See, I'm doing it. I'm just not good at it. I could learn, but it's like, why? I'm in grad school. I have like so many other things to learn. I can't learn how to shuffle cards and learn statistics. I mean, I probably could. I'd be really good at poker. Okay, cutting the deck. And Titans Tactics. So Titans Tactics, I would pick a 2-player tactical game in the same video in which I talk about how I really don't like 2-player tactical games. Anyway, Titans Tactics, we're gonna give it a try, and it will definitely be Ryan's game more than my game, but I'll play it. In Titans Tactics, you are playing to become the most powerful Titan ever, and you're doing this by battling your champion against your opponent's champion. Whenever your champion scores on your opponent's champion, this balance token moves closer to you on the balance track. It's a little bit like tug of war. If your opponent then scores on you, the balance token will move closer to them, and so on and so forth. You can win in 2 different ways. If you manage to get the balance token closer to you during 3 rounds, or at the end of 3 rounds, you win. That might, of course, take 4 or 5 rounds to do. Or if you manage to get the balance token all the way over to you, you also win. I'm interested to see how that mechanic works out and how that affects the length of the gameplay. I'm not sure if that could make it feel easier if you're far behind to either catch up or to just end the game quickly and play again, or if it'll make it seem like it might drag out a little bit. I'm gonna give it a shot and see how it plays. Ryan will probably play with a couple of our other friends who are way more into tactical games than I am too, to make sure we give this one a fair shot. Okay, so that is May. We have our work cut out for us, especially with a convention on the schedule, but I think we can do it. We did it last month, and last month was even more weighty and more difficult for gaming. Thank you all so much for listening. As always, we have a Patreon, and if you like the content that we're putting out here, our next goal on the Patreon is to start doing accessory reviews. So reviews of different gaming accessories that are coming out. I would love to be able to do that because I love to make my games prettier and easier to store. We would love if you could go and support us there if you have the means, and even if you don't, please like and subscribe down below and leave a comment letting us know what you hope to get to the table in May. We'll be back soon with more videos. Bye! Hey everyone, I'm Erin and welcome back to Cardboard Republica. Jumping ahead a little bit, we also had a chance to play Castle Dice More Castles? Or More Dice? First up is World's Fair 1893.